So with that being said, the things that I would like to address tonight are, first and foremost, I would like to know what our school curriculum is. Right now, I'm in the mix of figuring out whether I'm going to send my children back in the fall. I have one child that's learning at home in a room by herself for a year. I have another child who wasn't afforded starting pre-K because that was canceled. So lots of different things. I want to start too by saying that I met with Superintendent Ward. We had a like almost a 3-hour meeting where I presented him with stacks and stacks of scientific data debunking anything about masks, about vaccines in children. I'm unsure why nobody is standing up against this in our school system. It's a little bit upsetting to me that we're destroying a generation of children for nothing and nobody's standing up. And I've begged people to meet with me, to talk to me, let me sit down. I would be a front runner. My child has lost a year of her life alone in a room, and nobody will even acknowledge it. This is so disheartening. I would like to know what our curriculum is going to be, what it is. I was told to look at the New York State website. According to the New York State website, my child would be learning transgenderism in the kindergarten. She would be learning how to be an activist, learn about her sexuality, how to be a Marxist. There were a lot of other things on there. Critical race theory, something I'd really like to touch on, because I wasn't even afforded the opportunity to ask the candidates who I voted in if they support this or not. Didn't get an answer. I'm really, really disappointed. I think our community is one of the strongest around. I would be a front runner. I've offered to throw pizza parties to sit down. And I want to tell you too that if you guys aren't willing to stand up, then I really think that we all need to let other people who are willing to stand up and fight this fight it. It comes down to the school board for what's going on. Mechanicville has lifted their mask mandates. They're not forcing children to sit in 100-degree weather where parents would go to jail for it in a mask. Mask breaks, it's ridiculous. There's no reason our children should be going through any of this. I would like to say that the only thing I think that it's going to come down to for you guys to understand what this vaccine mandates, everything else is money. So I'd like to do a little bit of math with you. And the math is, I know of, as of today, 11 parents who will remove their children from Fort Edward. We have come together and we have decided that there is going to be no vaccine going in our children. There is going to be no masks going on their faces. This is ridiculous. And 10 people, I'm not exactly sure what you guys get a year for each child. I couldn't get an exact number, but let's average 13,000. You multiply that by 11. That's a lot of money to a small school like ours. And these aren't people making dead ill promises. Nobody is putting a trial vaccine in their child for a chance that they have a 0.00003 chance of becoming ill from COVID. I would also like to go back for a minute and say one more thing about critical race theory. And I would really like to know where everybody stands on it. And I would also like to touch, and I would like to say that why is my child watching CNN in school? What's going on? I've complained and complained and complained about it. I tell her to sign out of it. Pardon me. I tell her to sign out. Nobody's even contacted me. My daughter's not even getting social studies. She can't even tell me the 3 branches of government, but yet you guys have her watching CNN in school in place of a book. I was the only parent in Fort Edward who asked at the virtual meeting at the beginning of the year where to pick up my daughter's books. The only other thing that the parents on there were concerned about was how many times their child could be late to virtual learning. Unacceptable. My daughter does not have a book. She's lost. She's not going to the 6th grade.
So Mrs. Munoz, that's 6 minutes. I will let, I'll turn it back over to, I did mute you.
We thank you for your comments. I think some of the concerns that you're expressing probably should go to state ed and possibly the governor. Certainly, we follow the guidelines of state education. And we appreciate your comments, and thank you. Okay. All right, moving on.
You want to ask Toby if there's anybody else?
Anyone else who has like to
No,
make a
ask
comment?
Toby if you got anybody else that's out of time. Toby, did you receive any other folks who have to make community comments this evening?
No, I did not.
All right, we'll have a second comment at the end. Okay. All right. Now, time for our paper to talk about some exciting things that took place.
Yeah, I can see Mr. Guarno on there. So, Mr. Guarno, do you mind speaking to the senior ball and the senior trips? I certainly can, but you've been a little bit closer to it than I have been.
Sure. So we had our senior ball, on Friday, and we were preparing for it on Friday. Saturday, we had the senior ball. Kids did a great job. They had a lot of fun. I can tell you that when you plan for 4 hours to be dancing in a gym, you don't realize how much fun you have within the first 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And some of them did get a little bit tired by the end of it. But they had a ball. They definitely did. Literally a ball, a senior ball. They definitely got a time to be together, which obviously has been tough over the past year, but a time for them all to be together, get to see each other and have a little fun at the same time. The trip to Yankee Stadium, all I have heard is good things about that. Unfortunately, the Yankees lost. So all the Red Sox fans on the trip loved it. And the Yankee fans were a little bit upset. But it was a great trip. Obviously, no incident. The kids did a great job. And even the bus driver, the company said that they were very impressed with our kids and impressed with how they acted. And they really they showed well for Fort Edward. So that was great to hear. Anytime we go anywhere, we want to hear that. And our seniors obviously should be models for our school and definitely were. And then this past weekend, we had the chance to go up to Twin Pines, and the seniors once again, great job up there, and no issues from Twin Pines or from anyone at Twin Pines in terms of Fort Edward, saying that we did a great job. And the kids have had some time to actually be together, which is great. Tomorrow will be another opportunity for many of our seniors to come in, as they're going to come in with their cap and gowns. And they're going to walk through our school and get to see our elementary kids, our middle school kids, and our high school kids, but fully dressed in cap and gown, as that's the goal as they're going through school, is to prepare for that. And I asked them, I said, when you were in 5th grade, do you remember that senior class walking through? And I can say in front of me, everyone was like, oh, no, no, no. But then afterwards, to one of the advisors, they said, you know what, I did remember that trip. And I remember those seniors walking through, and a couple of them were really excited about it. And I think the whole group is excited. We also like to save face a little bit. We don't want to say that in front of the group. But so they're going to have their cap and gowns tomorrow and going through the building, and get a chance for their teachers from when they were in elementary school to also see them now in cap and gowns and getting prepared to graduate. So that's a great opportunity as well here at the end of the year.
As a father of a senior, John, thank you very much for you and Lori and Deb and everyone who contributed to them having that senior ball. And then down the trip, I know there's some teachers that went down there as well to the Yankee game. They all had a great job. And you're right, everything I heard after that. And then they had lunch up there and breakfast at my house the next day. And they felt really good about being together. There's a little bit of a somber mood as well, because they realized that it's happening at the very end of the year. So there were some tears of happiness and a little bit of sadness too, but they had a great weekend and followed through and so keep going to graduation. So thanks for everything everyone's done to to get them together.
Excellent. And I'll go next to the Wax Museum. And I know I can see that Mrs. Bruce and Mrs. Smotko are both on there. So I don't know if one of them wants to talk about it briefly, but I want to say that it's one of my favorite things. I'm trying to get used to looking at the camera, which is that little ball on the top of the room. One of my favorite things, and we got to do it today, not exactly how we used to, because usually it's in the gym, and we have a lot of parents in. We had it in the upstairs hallway, and it was students and staff members, only people inside the building were at the event. The kids did a fantastic job. I just want to recognize all those young people, including the ones who are doing it remotely through their Chromebooks at home. They had their wax museum cutouts with their heads stuck through, and I took some time to interact with them. And I know a lot of students and a lot of staff members and teachers did. I don't know if Jess or Steph, if one of you would like to speak to that event today and the success of it. And if not, that's okay too. Oh, there you go.
Sure. It was very successful, and it certainly takes a village. So we will be soon posting our Padlet, which is an interactive bulletin board, so that others can enjoy it. Unfortunately, it was not an event where we could invite visitors in, which we normally do, but the kids did a great job. And our favorite part is when those older kids come through and remember the time when they were part of the Biography Wax Museum. So great job to everybody. Again, it takes a village. We had lots of support from our whole team and our specials teachers and everybody involved. So thank you very much. The kids did an awesome job once again.
Danny and her friends just found the video from theirs.
Did they?
And they were watching it the other day.
Yeah, that's
and they were both, like, you could hear them all on the phone because they're doing like Google Meets amongst themselves. They're like, doing group chat. And they're like, oh my gosh, look how cringy. Look how little we were. Oh my goodness. We were so cute.
It's a rite of passage here.
Yes, they had the best time watching it.
It's awesome. It's awesome. But and thanks. Steph, do you want to say something, or you're good with Jess?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
It was a great day. The kids did great, and we are very proud of them. And we'll have the Padlet out soon for everybody to see.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have a presentation by Ms. Smotko.
Yep. So later on in the board agenda, you'll see a motion to appoint Mrs. Smotko as a coordinator for the summer school Enrichment Academy for our elementary students. And she's been working like crazy along with the team that's going to be helping this summer. So I wanted to give her a few minutes tonight to do a presentation on where we're at so far. It's something that hasn't been done here in quite some time, but with the amount of time that our students have missed from instruction and then the way we've had to carry out instruction this year, we're trying to provide a bridge to next year, which hopefully will be a much more normal year, a year where, again, hopefully we won't be wearing masks and we won't have to be 6 feet apart and all the desks won't have to be in rows facing one way, and all those regulations that we had forced upon us this year by the State Education Department, the Department of Health, and the Governor's Office. So we're trying to bridge it. There's still some of those things that we have to do, but I wanted Jess to be able to talk about it because she's right on ground level with it, and I know she's ready to go. I see her unmuted, and she's probably got a slideshow for us if I know her. So when you're ready, Mrs. Smotko.
Can I present, Mr. Ward, or?
You should be able to. I don't think it's locked down.
Okay, so becoming familiar with Google Meet is one of the many perks of having to go virtual for quite some time this year. So we're all pretty familiar with that. Okay, so we're ready to go here. I have to say we have a great team assembled here. We have a few more still in the works for our Summer Enrichment Academy. and it will begin in July. I'm going to try to go through pretty quickly here. So we are first trying to really get some of those kids excited about some of the social emotional learning we'll be doing over the summer, STEM activities, and just kind of reviewing and reinforcing some of those skills that they gained throughout this school year. The group came up with a mission statement, which you can read there. It touches on, you know, not just skill and drill, but just kind of touching all over on to social emotional needs, reviewing grade level expectations, and also really kind of fostering some of those curious learners with some STEM projects and making it very fun and interactive for this 4-week period. So this will be for students in grades K through 6. And so what will our program look like? We're going with the saying, keeping our kids sharp. And what does SHARP stand for? It stands for students having access to academic resources and programming to persevere. Okay, so in a normal school year in a summertime, we do have some students who may experience some of that summer slide with everything that they've experienced with some interruptions in learning throughout the year and a half. We have an opportunity through the grant that we're going to receive to fund this to kind of help maintain what they've gained throughout this year. So this is a great opportunity. Unfortunately, we're with very little lead time, so our team is working tirelessly to make all of this happen and make it a real fun, interactive experience for students this summer. So as you can see, we have some familiar faces and names here, grades kindergarten through 6. This is our lineup where you see some grades where it says split, for instance, like 3rd grade. Both Mrs. Bruce and I will be team teaching. So I'll be teaching a week and then she will be teaching a week, and then I will be teaching a week and she will be teaching a week. Same thing with our grade 1 group. We have a counseling team assembled. We have some teacher subs on staff. And what does that mean? It just means that 2 things. One, if we need someone, you know, is out, we need to have a teacher sub for that. Oh, sorry about that. They will fill that spot, but also we'll have that person here on a daily basis to help with any extra support that a group might need. So who can attend? We went out with a phase 1 group of students in grades K through 6. And this was our initial process for recommendation. Again, little lead time, we pulled it all together and this was our plan. So it was initially phase 1 group was based on teacher recommendation, some testing data, and some were parent requests or counselor recommendations. As of tonight, our current registration is a total of 56 students, which I think is fantastic. Again, very little lead time. We focused on students that fell into those 3 categories. And then in some grade levels, we were able to open up the registration a little bit more to kind of fill up some of those spots. When does it begin? It will begin July 5th and run through the 29th. So we're keeping it a 4-week program. We're trying to be flexible with the summer rec department because that is such a huge part of our community. The kids love that. We don't want anybody to have to choose between the 2 programs. So we're going to be working with them to ensure things run smoothly there. It'll be Monday through Thursday. The kids will get a daily breakfast and a grab and go lunch. This would be a typical schedule. So you can see that there's a lot of interesting things built into a typical schedule. So we've got STEM, we've got free reading time, some practice with fluency and things like that. Each week we'll have, we've got some fun themes for the 4 weeks, and then target skills when we take a look at what are some areas that we could work on. Each week we have a target skill and a theme, which makes it really, you know, the kids really buy into wanting to come We're making it very interactive and relating some STEM activities and social emotional activities as well as literature to some of these themes. Grades 4 through 6 are more of a literature-based unit, touching on some of the target skills and themes for the week. So really quick, that's it. What's next? We will be sending out confirmation letters with some expectations and such, and also information on our virtual parent information night, which will be held on June 22nd at 6 p.m. So those folks who have submitted their enrollment forms will be getting a confirmation letter soon. And that's all that I have.
Awesome, that's fantastic, Ms. Marco. So I imagine it isn't over, right? We'll have some more.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look at the camera.
I'm looking at the screen. So I imagine it's still open for registration, so hopefully we'll have some more young ones sign up for summer.
We do have enrollment open until the 17th. However, we do have some groups that we are closing enrollment due to some of the mixes and needs of the students in that group. So if you haven't submitted your enrollment form, submit it.
Jess, I think this is a great idea, and I'm so glad that we are getting funds to be able to do this for the students. This sounds like exactly what they'll need for the summer. So
Yeah, no, great work to everyone who signed up for that too. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. We appreciate it very much.
Stan, that's being provided by funding from.
Yeah, so we have a couple of different funding streams for that. One is the American Rescue Act, the American Rescue Funds, right? Coming from the federal government. Along with that, Fort Edward School was identified as a target school, and therefore we had a school improvement grant. I was able to get that grant completed in the months of May and June. So that totals about $75,000. Part of that money is being pushed towards the summer coordinator position and the summer counseling positions. We're also using part of that money to buy all $75,000 is not going to the summer programs. We're spending about $39,000 on Chromebooks because we have 188 Chromebooks that will go out of usable life this summer. So that helps us buy 134 of those Chromebooks. But the other piece, I'm going to mention it again later, is we were very fortunate to receive just last week, and I probably awarded this today. So if you haven't read your email yet, you haven't heard this. We received $150,000 of bullet aid to be used immediately in the new year to help offset anything that our students need to get them back in person and to help with any kind of learning recovery that needs to take place across grade levels. So I'm gonna speak to that. I might as well speak to it right now. So I want to thank Carrie Warner very much. When the news first came out about Irving and the change in assessment, certainly I contacted her and she was already working on it, trying to find a way to help our school. I subsequently did contact her, let her know it looked like things were going to change with Irving to be better for Fort Edward, just so that she knew all the information. And in the end, she was concerned we wouldn't be awarded the money, but we were left in there, and we have been awarded that $150,000 in bullet aid. That's approximately $1.5 to $1.6 million in bullet aid over the last 5 years due to the efforts of our school board members, our previous business officials, and the people of Fort Edward, and certainly Assemblywoman Carrie Warner and former Senator Betty Little. So I will say that thank you to them one more time from Fort Edward. Without those kinds of funds, we'd be in a much different place than we are right now. And we all know it hasn't been the most comfortable place to be in anyways. So thank you to them. And
Dan, being honest, Dan put a lot of time, a lot of work down there and was able to do that. We had a large administrative staff, so Dan was able to get down there and lobby, and a couple of us board members went down there and pled our case. And some of you may remember we got an agreement from Betty and Carrie for $400,000 a year for 3 years in a row. And that had a lot to do with lobbying and pleading our case and talking about the future of Fort Edward and decision-making. So that was a major accomplishment, like Dan said, keep us going forward. To help us stay afloat. So Dan did a lot of great work there and a lot of great lobbying. $1.5 million over 4 years is a lot of money for a little school district. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, proud to be a part of it. So I guess long story short, what we want people to hear who are out there in the public is that this summer program is not being funded through our voter-approved budget. It's being funded through grant monies. And American Rescue Act money, which are working like grant monies in the coming year. And I want to talk a little more about American Rescue funding a little bit later on down the line here. And I had, if we're good with the Summer Academy presentation, if there's no more questions about that for Jess, I have a second presentation I didn't put on the agenda because I didn't want somebody to ask me not to have it on the agenda. So if the board will indulge me, if we're good with the Summer Academy, then I want to speak to the second piece. So tonight is the last regular scheduled board meeting of the year, because as everybody knows, school year ends June 30. So I did want to take a moment to recognize Todd Tyler for 15 years of service on the school board. I believe I'm correct, Todd, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
3 terms, yes.
3 terms. So I want to thank Todd for that. It's a lot of late nights, maybe since I've been here. But every night in the boardroom is not perfect, but together we make it work. And I just want to thank, on behalf of the board, Todd, I want to thank you for 15 years, and certainly thank you for the 5 years that I've been able to work with you.
Thank you, Dan. You know, if it wasn't for the sweets that came out in the last email, I probably wouldn't have attended either, or I definitely if I saw it on here, I wouldn't have. So that was probably a good choice. But it almost feels a little bit like retirement. I'll be honest with you, 15 years. It's time to hang up the ed law book and pass over the 3 policy manuals to our other 2 that are coming on here. I'll talk about them in a minute. But the sacrifices over 15 years as board members, the board members that are here and all the board members that served within the 15 years, there's a lot of many difficult decisions that are made. And some of the decisions may go against, some of the close people that, that you're dealing with in even your personal life, but you have to do what's best in terms of the district. But it's been a pleasure to serve the district and the community over these years. Again, every district has been in the best interest of the students. I can tell you that as an educator myself, and I spent a lot of time at my particular job. But I want to thank all those that have worked tirelessly. I'm talking about our staff itself to provide the best experience for our students at Fort Edward. There are many aspects of this experience that I've really enjoyed. Okay, other than seeing the school grow and change with the limited resources. It's been my interactions with the diverse group of board members. I'll have to say that, over the 15 years, the group members that have served with me and the 4 superintendents as well. But it's been a lot of fun, as well as a great learning experience from the different perspective as education. So I'm glad I went into it, but I'm glad to be moving on and passing this on to Amanda and John. So I wish Amanda and John the best of luck. They did a fantastic job. You meet the candidates tonight, and I think that they do have the students in their best interest. So stay involved, and again, hopefully you can make 16 years. So we'd like to see that. I'll be there out in the public asking the questions, but somebody will have to ask the questions on this board table. But thank you, Dan. I appreciate that this evening. Thanks.
I'm sad to see you.
Thank you.
I just want, Toby, in case you can't see, I have Joe Carroll in at 7:08 p.m.
Okay.
Welcome.
All right, let's talk about board committees. Next finance committee is 5 o'clock. That's the reorg. Did we have the reorg set for an early time?
Yes, we had the reorg set for 5:30 is what the board had decided, so I put it a half hour previous. So in case there was any financials to review, it being July 1st, there likely won't be any new financials to review after what you saw this evening.
Right.
But you may want to have a conversation about the American Rescue Act with your incoming superintendent and Charlene.
Yeah, another big opportunity to review that stuff. Okay. Policy committee met on 6/2. Athletic met on 5/5. Next meeting will be in the fall. And then we don't have any plans for any other committees, but I'm sure when Mark gets in, we'll start discussing some committees for next year. And that leads us to the superintendent report.
Right, so many items on there, and some are for now and some are for later. So I want to make sure that I'm giving you what you need moving forward after I'm not the person sitting at the desk. And one of those items that's been asked for recently are some student progress and data reports. And those are in your board folder online this month. And I provided those. It's going to take some time to go through those. I got those from Mr. Galarno, so he knows the reports pretty well. And I spoke with him about it, that maybe we give the board a month or so to take a look at those and come back with questions for John or some questions about how to synthesize those into something different that works better for the board. The reports that are in the packets in the online Google folder are reports that print directly out of eSchool data, so those are easy to get. So we try to synthesize those to make them into the multi-grade reports that it's a little more time-consuming work for him. And this would be his first time through the process. But I would make that suggestion. You take the next month to take a look at those, and in your July meeting, you say, "Hey, Mr. Galarno, and hey, Mr. Besson, we have some questions about this, and here's some data we'd like to see, or is there a way we can push this data into a different format that works better for the board?" That would be a suggestion. I wanted to make sure you knew that they were there.
Yeah.
For certain, we have more students who are struggling this year than any other year. And for certain, last year we had more students struggling than the year when we were actually in person. So you have 3 years worth of those reports in there to start taking a look at. And that is not just Fort Edward School. When Mr. Galarno and I talk to our colleagues, that is, I would say without exception, every school in our area, and maybe in even a larger geographic area than our own general area. Go ahead, Joe.
So I was looking through those, and you're talking about, down the road looking at those. Maybe graph form would be the best way, because when I was looking at it, it was tough to compare. So at some point, if that, maybe the suggestion is that you can do it in a graph form for each particular category frame versus digging up and down through that report.
It's going to show.
So like every course in the same year, maybe, because it's course by course now.
So you can do it. You can do a 3-year trend on it and broke it down, because if 85 pages going through it, you could see that there's a marked decline due to COVID.
Yeah. And I could start to see trends in grades, but it's difficult because you're going back and forth. So maybe if it's, I don't think you need to get so granular down to, like Spanish, for example. Probably don't need to know each one, but like as a whole, and then grade it that way, and then you could then, depending how far you want to dive down into that. But I just thought graphs might be easier to just quickly see it.
Mr. G, are you able to hear what's the conversation? Because it ultimately will fall back to you. And I see now as well. So I'm not passing the buck. I'm just making sure that he can hear what's going on.
John, I'm surprised that data isn't already able to be processed in some type of chart or graph way. I mean, I imagine it's in a database, right? So I don't think you gotta like copy from the PDF and plug it into an Excel. There's gotta be some way of explaining that into some kind of chart.
Yeah, that's something we can definitely do and make it a little bit easier to look at, a little bit user friendly.
It's nice to see the number of students taking the classes. I mean, those things are still.
Yeah.
To be able to go back.
It was good data.
So I wanted to just point that out and kind of let you know where we were. I had some requests about the information. Certainly, John and I have been talking about the information, or Mr. Galarno. And it's something that the board has to pay close attention to. And again, it's gonna wrap back to programming and curriculum and funding, right? And the use of ERA funds and the use of, frankly, general fund funds when you're planning next year's budget and the budget thereafter. This is gonna be a few years, I would expect, to bring our students out of this. And actually anybody, all of us to come out of this, it's gonna be a few years. Merger study update. Committee met last night. I know that many, if not all, of the board members were on for that call. I just wanted to remind everybody that was the last meeting of the committee. The consultants will take feedback from committee members on any items in the report that they feel need to be adjusted or tweaked, or if there's typographical errors or things like that. And then they'll have a final version of the report that will go to state ed. When we have a final version that comes back from state ed, we'll post it, the board will have it, and shortly after that, you folks will have a joint meeting with the South Falls board. And the suggestion I would make is that occurs down at the Ballard Road Center. Again, it's a big center, but that's a decision for you folks to make, pending whatever rules might be in place for meetings and such when the time comes. But you're looking at probably the August timeframe. Let's see, the annex garage transferring to the village. So I've mentioned this a few times. I just want to make sure I get it on the record. And it's actually great that Mr. Besson is on. But the village is very much interested in being the lead agency to accept that property from the school district. I have mentioned this before. It will require a vote of the voters to gift that property or to sell for $1 or whatever the proper term is. I also looped in Reverend Perlazzo, Chris Lanchan. So I leave it to you folks. I will say that my recommendation would be to have that property be the property of the village of Fort Edward. And they'll work together with the town and with the Historical Society to preserve it and use it for the purposes they need, which is storage and possibly like a reading room for people who want to come and look at some of those artifacts. Is how it was portrayed to me. And that's, I think, is a great deal. I also, in full disclosure, I certainly let South Falls, I let Superintendent Orr know that that's something we were looking at, and it's nothing to do with the merger or not about the merger. It's just something that a building that we think would be better served by the village.
That conversation started 4 years ago.
Yes, it did. It started.
It's been a long time in the works for that. It's important because it's above the floodplain. They need a lot of storage for all those documents. So yeah, it's been talked about for a while.
So
I remember when we went through it for that walk thing and you guys were looking at all your old stuff. I was like, was I even born yet? I don't even think I was born yet.
The one concern it will present to the board will be whatever you're storing out there, where does it go now? But
it's mostly
Tyler's house.
crops,
and
tissue. Exactly. It's mold year.
You're leaving, you're taking everything with you.
So that's what we already spoke to Bullet A. Smart Bond. So 4 years ago, we approved the Smart Bond project. We've been doing it in phases, and we've had some cash flow concerns over the last couple of years, so we had to wait. This Smart Bond works in this fashion. The school district has to pay the bill up front, and you wait a period of time, which sometimes is a long period of time, like 10, 12 months to get the money back. So you have to time the projects correctly. So the first part we did was the security part, which helped with some of our access control and also helped upgrade our video and surveillance camera system around the school. The next piece is going to be the smart displays. And so on July 1st, there'll be 30 smart displays ordered to be installed in the elementary school as the first phase of that happening. So I should say the elementary school, grade 6 in the middle school, high school building in the art room will get the first 30. And then we pay the bill and we wait. And we wait to be reimbursed by the state of New York through the Smart Schools Bond Act, which Charlie knows how to submit those reimbursements. And when that money comes back in, we turn around and we buy the next 30 that does the high school side of the building. And I'm overgeneralizing in the areas, that's generally it. The elementary and the high school in that fashion. And then you wait for that part to come back, and then you can move on to the next piece. That helps with cash flow. by ordering it on July 1st, by the time the bill comes due, we'll have obviously our unrestricted funds, but we'll also have taxes coming in, so it should not be a cash flow problem to pay that bill. Only wait 6 months or so after Charlene is able to submit that reimbursement claim to get that money back and turn around and do the next half. So there'll be a lot going on this summer with summer academy and summer school in the middle high school, these boards going up, and the normal cleaning. So everybody's gonna have to be really patient and know that everything we're doing is for the betterment of our school and for our kids, including smart displays, including the summer programs, including the cleaning and the maintenance that goes on in the summer. It's all for our kids, all for our kids. But it'll take some coordination, but we're up to the task, no doubt. Graduation, I'll let Mr. G talk to the specifics of it, but I just want to put out my annual PR announcement or public announcement to the board. A lot of hard work, a lot of tough decisions. If you are able to go and see the graduation, I think I say this every year, the 3 hours after graduation are probably the best hours of my year when it comes to work. It is the culmination of years and years of hard work by those kids, by their parents and family in this community. It's a great night to be out and honor our kids. And I really think if you get a chance to go and see it. And when it's over, say, you know what? I was a part of that because you were. And then next day, get back to work. That's kind of how the cycle runs, right? But you get to take that few hours and really think about it. So any board member that wants to come, we do have some relaxed restrictions, and Mr. G is going to talk about that, but we are able to have every board member, if they want to be there. We would just need, excuse me, I would need to know, or Toby would need to know, so we can have the proper seating for everybody. So that offer is open. And I'll leave it to, I'll talk about board members. So former board members also get to give out diplomas. So we do have some former board members that will be attending that evening. Both Mike Glass and Julie will be coming to hand the diploma to their children. And we also have the same that we extend to our staff members that have graduates. I did talk with Mr. Boucher. I have not gotten to Mrs. Delisle yet because she was on that great senior trip last week, but this was on my to-do list. So I'll catch up with her, or Mr. G, if you can. We want to make sure she gets that invitation to be the person that actually gives that diploma to their child. I think that's a very special thing, and I'm glad that we're able to do that here in Fort Edward. And again, there'll be more details when Mr. G talks. The new van's here, and it's in the facilities report that Craig gave us. The facility report didn't go in until today, but it's there. Registered, paid for, it's ours. It's already making a difference in how we have to transport. We're using a 7-passenger van rather than a 66-passenger bus. Although I'll say it out loud, this means we want to make sure all of our vehicles are moving every week, because when you have vehicles that are a little bit older, if you let them sit for a while, it's not great for them. So Craig knows that, and John Brown has heard that from me too. I get it, that van is beautiful. I would want to drive that all the time too, but we got to drive the old one to make sure it's there when we need it. Annual bus inspection report is in your board packet. We were down a little this year, still a great score, and I haven't committed to memory. But we had the older van failed once because it had an exhaust leak, which we took care of right away, and it passed immediately upon reinspection. The bus 20 is over 10 years old now. It's got less than 50,000 miles on it. But you need to think about, even with the amount of transportation we're doing right now, at some point, you need to think about replacing that bus. So when you're talking about next year's budget, or if you're talking about American Rescue Act money, a bus is a one-time purchase, and around here they last for 10 years with low mileage. It might be a worthwhile thought to purchase a bus to replace 20. And last is the Champlain Hudson Power Express pilot, and I talked about the Champlain Power Express. I first talked about it about 4 years ago, and it's getting closer to coming to fruition. I'll be at a meeting next week on the 23rd with business officials of the school districts of Putnam, Whitehall, Fort Anne, Hudson Falls, and Fort Edward, because this high voltage power transmission line is running through those school districts in Washington County. And the Washington County IDA is looking at a pilot program for them. And Fort Edward is very familiar with pilots and very familiar with tax certiorari claims and things like that. So I will tell you, I think the IDA's got some good ideas. This project is going to happen, and it's very, I would say 100% it's going to have a pilot attached to it. And maybe a different type of funding stream for a portion of the monies, but it will bring some money to Fort Edward. You know, there's some projections. I'll wait until after the meeting to provide projections, but there's a projection that, you know, over $100,000 will be coming from this project over the next $100,000 a year over the next 30 years. So 30 years is a long pilot project, but I just want to put it out there that it's moving again, and it's good to hear that it is moving. Treasurer's report is in your packet. Charlene, anything of note, or is there any questions on my item? Sorry. Charlene, anything to note in the treasurer's report?
No, everything's looking really good. If anybody has anything they want to add, but we did a finance committee meeting and reviewed all the reports and answered any questions at that time. So,
Thank you, Shirley. All right, next up is Mr. Guano.
All right, hello. First, starting on the elementary side, we were able to complete the grade 4 and grade 8 New York State science exam earlier this month. So we are done with our grades 3 through 8 exams. And that exam is a little different because that science exam, we do not use the Nextera online testing platform for that. So the kids had the paper and pencil, the number 2 pencils, and had to fill out the Scantron. So a little bit different with that one, but staff, teachers, everyone was proctoring. The students as well did a great job with the test, and we were able to get all those where they needed to go in a secure fashion. In the elementary school, we have our end of the year trips, end of the year events, as well as the high school. We're looking at our end of the year, and graduation's a big one coming up. But before I talk about the high school graduation, we have our kindergarten graduation, which will be a virtual ceremony. And it's going to be held on Thursday of this week. We actually have a rehearsal again tomorrow, which I'm excited to go in and to help them with that rehearsal tomorrow to prepare ourselves. But we're going to also have it where some of our parents are able to come in and pick up the kids a little bit early, but also get a chance to take some pictures outside. So we're trying to walk the line and still maintain all the social distancing, obviously following all the rules, but also getting people to have a little bit of that connection that we're so used to at the end of the year. So we're being as creative as we can with our kindergarten group so that can still happen. It's also field trip season. Though we didn't have very many field trips for obvious reasons this year, but we do have a couple. Our first grade group went up to the bowling alley. Obviously, our third grade group has a trip later this week. And then our fifth grade field trip, which I've been told is a usual, very important trip for our school, very, very much so talked about trip. This year, we did it a little bit different, and we're ended up going to the floating classroom on Lake George. And I think that's going to be a great trip for our kids. I think they get to do some STEM activities on that trip, and that's going to actually happen tomorrow. Our fifth grade and obviously our eighth grade as well will have their moving up ceremonies. Fifth grade will be on the 24th of June, so our last day of school for them. And then the eighth graders will be tomorrow. Sorry, my dog's barking. Anyways.
I can't mute you.
He has something to say too.
Yeah, he wants to talk. So we, where was I? You got me, buddy. Thank you. So the floating classroom, and then we have our end of the year ceremonies as well. Now the senior walkthrough, cap and gowns, and Then the graduation rehearsal. Graduation rehearsal will be on the 24th, and then graduation on the 25th. We are shooting for the outdoor event as we did last year. All I have heard is the positivity around the outdoor event, and why didn't we do it this way in the past? So although COVID put a wrinkle out there where we're outside, it seems as though people are really positive around it. So we've planned for us to be outdoors again this year. And our seniors originally were told 4 guests, and that was due to the COVID regulations, due to spacing, social distancing, and all the regulations go with it. We've gotten some new guidance. We will be, with the space we have out front of our building, we're going to be upgrading that to 6 adults or 6 guests for each of our graduates. With that, combined with obviously our graduates, and then any staff or any of our Board of Education that do go will be under the limit to maintain compliance with any type of regulations. And also just with the space we have out in the front of our building where people are going to be able to see and hear properly. So trying to keep it safe out front as well. I've been in contact with Ms. Taylor and Michael Smith, so Sarah Taylor and Michael Smith, and they've been working with our senior class to get our music together, and they have everything completed and ready to go. We're going to have a couple of our graduates helping with the national anthem, as well as the senior class helping with the alma mater, which that's a switch because we had a couple of our past music teachers that were really involved, but our new staff is excited to step up to that challenge and to try to do it as well. And obviously we also have our commencement speaker, which is a former graduate of Fort Edward, and that will be Nick Hebert, who's actually also not only a graduate, but a National Honor Society member here, someone who was a former athlete here, someone who was a D'Angelico Award winner, as we had our sports awards, our virtual sports awards banquet today, and we got to meet I got an opportunity to meet some of the people from that award and getting to meet some of the family, and just seeing the first award winner of the D'Angelico Award and getting to talk with them was a great experience as well. So I'm excited to have another connection to that award here at our commencement and graduation. And I think I jumped around a little bit and the dog threw me off a little bit, but I think I covered what I was looking to cover. If you have any questions, I can take some questions on graduation as well.
The prom, a little walkthrough we had in front of the school too, that went very well. The kids got a chance to show off a little bit, so I'll get to talking this thing. So thank you for that as well. And yeah, graduation last year, for those of us that were there, it was really phenomenal and such great feedback. So I echo what Dan said before, anyone that could make it, it's definitely worth the time. The kids, it's such a great accomplishment to see those kids and graduate. So, but yeah, thanks for what you're doing, John.
John, I'm going to ask you to will you talk about Plan B and C just briefly?
I was just about to add that because I think we should talk about it a little briefly here. So Plan B, we're outside, it could rain. I think everybody in the area, every school is thinking about an outdoor commencement. So everyone, just like me, I'm going to be the weatherman for the next week and a half, and I'm going to be studying that weather and really hoping that we can dodge the raindrops. But if for some reason we know ahead of time, and we're definitely going to be looking at it, if it looks like it's going to be bad, I'm not going to put anyone in harm's way, obviously, and we will automatically shift to Saturday. With that, if we look, and Saturday is also, so that's Plan B, we move it directly to Saturday. But as we look at the weather, and the forecasting is looking not good for Saturday. Right now it looks good, by the way. But if we were to say that Saturday doesn't look good, then we will be able to move it indoors. Now, with the changes in the regulations for an indoor event and for the space that we have, it looks as though the only change that we would have for our graduates would be that they're allowed to have 4 guests indoors and still maintain all the regulations that we need to maintain. with it being in the building. So although it wouldn't be a good thing to move inside, because I think the planning for outside, I think having more people there would be great. Also, we can say that if we had to, as a plan C, move indoors, at least we're still at the 4 graduates, which was the original plan for outdoors for graduation.
Great, thanks for that, John.
There it is.
Crossing the stage would be great for the kids too, if there's inclement weather. So either way, I think it'll be great.
So the Saturday morning graduation could potentially be in the morning, or is that?
So John and I talked about this, and I said, well, if we're having thunderstorms, if we wait till 6, we could have a thunderstorm Friday, and if we wait, so if the morning or late morning, early afternoon looks good, we might have to do it. We haven't committed to times, because it's gonna be, doesn't happen Friday, we're gonna have to look and see what the weather looks like and make an announcement at that time. So we're trying not to pin ourselves down with exact times right now. Yep.
Anything else for John? Thank you, sir. All right, next up, building and grounds report. I don't think.
Yeah, so it's in the packet, and it talked about the van, and Craig just really wanted to thank the board for supporting the appointment of Michael Sharkey that we did last month. That's been a godsend in keeping up with the ball fields and the things outdoors. As you know, we still are. You'll see we have a resignation on your agenda a little bit later. So we've been running down by 1 to 2 cleaners the majority of this school year. So having somebody able to go outside, take care of that, and dedicate some people inside has been very helpful.
Next up, discussion items, interim superintendent search process or recap.
Do you want to come in and start, and you fill in the blanks? So we just wanted to make sure that everybody, and I know the public release has happened, so a lot of the information was in there. We just wanted to make sure that folks knew a little bit about how the process played out. It certainly is a confidential process. It's held in executive session, all the review of the paperwork, all the interviewing that occurs. And that will be the same for any employee that's hired by a school district. And in a full search, when Fort Edward School does a full search, this board totally plans, based on my understanding of their thoughts, to have all the committee members and stakeholders involved, just as they did when they were hiring me and probably folks before me. But with an interim, that's not normally the case, and we followed what normally occurs with interim here. So we did have a few meetings. They're posted online. When you go to look at them, basically, you'll see 2 or 3 minutes of video. It's a meeting being called to order, and then going into executive session, and then coming back out and being adjourned. There's no decision making that happens, no action that occurs, I should say, in public session until tonight. So there was 9 candidates, I believe. The board did a paper review, and it was the process was facilitated by the BOCES. But certainly, when it came time for the board, and I'll let Tom speak to this. When it came to the end, after the paper review was done and the interviews were done, I'll let Tom take over from there. What happens with everybody having to leave in the decision-making process?
Yeah. So it went from 9 to 3, and we had really 3 great candidates. And then upon discussion of those 3 candidates, it was strictly the board in the room. We discussed those candidates, and we unanimously appointed Mark Besson as our interim superintendent. We're extremely happy to have Mark with us. It was a great discussion, great interview, great feedback. We're looking forward to a fantastic year with Mark.
Anything additional from any other board members on that process?
I think it's important to say that this was, this was a board, like BOCES, provided us, helped guide us through it, but this was a board decision, the way that we went about choosing the interim superintendent, and unanimously decided that Mark was absolutely the right man for the job.
We're going to put him on the spot right now. Mark, would you like to say anything?
Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to starting. Dan's been nothing but a help so far. We did meet last night with some of the Fort Edward people that were there, just looking at, the report that was done last night, which Dan shared with you. So I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to starting.
We're excited to have you.
Thanks, Mark. It's wearing the blue. Good job. All right.
American Rescue Plan.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so the American Rescue Plan funds and applications, so I'll start, but need a little feedback from the board for Charlene and for Mark and for me. But the American Rescue Plan is the name of the federal funding that's coming in, and you're looking at over $1 million that has to be spent over the next 3 to 4 years. There's some different buckets you can put that money into. What I would suggest is a general conversation tonight, and then maybe a finance committee meeting, or you talk about a little bit at that half-hour block finance committee, and you schedule a real finance committee meeting right after if you need to. But maybe you'll be good with that, because I'm sure Mark's got some ideas. I'm going to share some of the ideas that John and I have talked about, and the other school districts in our area have talked about with everybody. But you have to have the plan in. The original due date was today. The state came out and gave everybody till the end of the month, so gave everybody a 15-day extension. But last week, Charlene and I took a look at our workloads and said, what's the probability of us getting it done by the 15th? She very wisely said we should probably put in for a 30-day extension. So right now, Fort Edward has an approved extension to the 15th of July. And again, you have enough cash with the other sources to get your summer school off the ground and get it running. And then this money just comes and fills back in when you're paid by the state government. So it isn't like you have to stop doing summer school if the money isn't there right away. So some of the things that we talked about are anything we can do for rescue learning. So that's the summer school you heard about, the summer academy for the elementary school. There's also summer school that we're looking to do for our 7th through 12th graders. And there's 2 things we're trying to do, and John, you can feel free to jump in if I miss a piece. But it's going to be more like traditional summer school, because we're talking 9 through 12, we're talking about credit bearing, and 7th and 8th grade, we're talking about seat time and core subject areas to prepare them for those 9th through 12th grade classes. So we have 2 different models. In the staffing list you see for approval later on this evening, there's 5 people that are, I would consider junior high school teachers. The majority of those folks are for that elementary academy you heard about. So we're trying to run some courses here for in-person summer school on our site. And then for students who need courses we can't provide here, either due to staffing limitations, or if we only have 1 student who might need it, we are going to be looking to transport students to the regional summer school at Granville. And here is the difference about that this year. In conversations that I've had with Mrs. Scott or Mr. G about barriers for students to be successful in summer school and recovery learning this summer to gain credits towards graduation and to qualify for those very important waivers to Regis exams, we're going to provide transportation to Granville, certainly free of charge for our students as long as they attend. And we're also going to pay the tuition for those students to attend those courses. That's a change. In previous years here at Fort Edward, students in 9 through 12 had to pay the tuition out of their pocket. Mrs. Scott's let me know that that's a significant barrier and always has been for students here at Fort Edward to attend summer school. So again, the American Rescue Funds, that's a part of that summer school, that recovery learning, and you're required to spend a portion of your funds on that anyways. So 20, at least 20%. So that's the recommendation. That's what we're doing at this point. So I've made that decision for the school district right now, unless the board is completely against it, and then I can rethink it. But you've got to spend some of that money, and certainly, to me, with the $150,000 from Kerry Warner and the $75,000 in the school improvement grant, I think it's a no-brainer to get our kids in a good position. And I might say with Chris right there, Chris is a teacher in another district, and obviously Todd is too, but I know Chris is in high school. If students don't qualify for that waiver now, and that waiver runs out on them, that can put some real serious pressure on them for graduation and put some students in jeopardy for graduation by not getting those tests taken care of through that waiver when they completed the course. If that waiver goes away by the end of next year and that child hasn't been in that course for a whole year, it makes it much harder to pass those exams that are needed for graduation. So there's some strategy to this to help our students be in the best position possible for graduation. And there's other things we're trying to handle too, but that's part of it. Definitely trying to get them out across the stage. That's our goal. One of our goals for our students. So that would be that. That would be part of it. And then another one that I want the board to have a conversation about tonight is academic recovery labs in our middle high school next year. We're bringing people back. We're bringing some staff back at 0.67. I did take some time to meet with Mrs. Scotch again, and I met with Mr. G at a separate time because our schedules did match. But there's some good ideas. We can provide rescue learning after school hours, but they actually came with a great idea, which I hadn't thought of. If those 0.67s were 1.0s, and we have to do this as like a 1 year at a time thing, because we know we don't want to be in a spot in Fort Edward where we're using one-time funds to try to pay for something that's going to last for an expense that's going to last forever. But if we go into this knowing that, okay, we're going to take, our budget's going to pay for 0.67 of these people, and this grant's going to pay for 0.33 of these people. That provides that rescue lab support for our students during the school day. By making those 0.67s 1.0, we can schedule many of those academic recovery labs, and trying to use the correct terminology, for our students during the school day. And another piece that came to light is that's actually, it has a potential to be less expensive than paying hourly for after school, because normally the after school is picked up by the most expensive employees, and nothing against those folks, they have the most time in the district. But during the day, we're going to schedule to the people that are open, which could be a step 3 teacher as opposed to a step 20 teacher. It might be a step 20 teacher. I don't want to say it won't be. So some good points were made, but I think I'm recommending that the board do that at their July meeting, or sometime over when we've had time to think about it and discuss it again, to move those 0.67s to 1.0 moving into next September, so those labs can be scheduled. That's something you need to think about just a little bit, but you have to understand that every year that you move forward, you have to be looking at the end of the line for that rescue money. So if we say the first year 0.67 general fund, 0.33 rescue money, a baby step for me in year 2 would be 0.8 general fund, right, regular budget, 0.2 rescue money, and then in year 3, where are you, 0.9 and 0.1 or something like that. I think you look at it graduated, and maybe after year 1, you decide that, you know what, the academic recovery labs, we're good with that, we want to do something else, and we can do things with a 0.67 staff member. But that's one of the things I wanted to put out there for the discussion. And a couple, I'll move back to the discussion in a minute, but also, I said it before, but I would look at your transportation, your vehicles, your maintenance vehicles, and those one-time expenses. And I would look at your transportation vehicles, that one bus in particular. I'd look at HVAC. You've heard me talk about this before. HVAC are great upgrades. I don't know that you could do the whole school, but there's some key spots I would look at very seriously. And again, you can take my recommendations for what they're worth. When I look at air conditioning in a building, a school building, I would try to put it in areas where every student at some time during their day or week could benefit from it. If I could pick one place in this building to air condition with rescue funds and upgrade the HVAC and the air movement, and then it would be the library. Because the library was built in the 90s. I'm not exactly sure why they wouldn't have put air conditioning at that time. I'm sure there was a great reason, probably cost, if I had to guess. But I would pick that one. And if I had to pick another one, it'd be the lunchroom, but I did talk to some architects about that. That's not an easy thing because the way our lunchroom is wide open. But imagine if every kid who was sweating it out in the last 2 weeks had an air-conditioned lunch and an air-conditioned time in the library. I think that goes a long way for students being more productive throughout the day. So I would look at some HVAC. I put the library at the top of your list. And then there's a reading program. And we were looking at this possibly through general funds or through that school improvement grant. But when the American Recovery Act came out, John's been working with the elementary staff on a reading program to supplement Readers and Writers Workshop. And here's what happened. Readers and Writers Workshop requires a lot of group activity. Guess what we weren't able to do for the last 18 months? Group activities. So we've got some students who we want to help be on track with reading. So they've been looking at reading programs. John, I believe the name of the one that the committee has landed on, it was a large and active committee. They met on a few different programs. I think they settled on Wonders, and Wonders is a pretty prescribed program. But right now, you can buy in for 6 years for around, John, I think the number was $70,000. Am I getting it right? That's without me doing any negotiations, which I like to do. So that's one of those things for that American Recovery money I would be talking about. And I don't want you to think that Readers and Writers Workshop wasn't a good program. It was. But then when you can't do the workshops, certainly that created a big barrier for us this year. So I wanted to put that one out there. I'm hoping that the reading program can be purchased for next year out of those funds. But I think the bigger discussion would be about what do you want to do with those 0.67s to 1.0s. I'm hoping the board can have some sort of conversation this evening. So Joanna, as a high school scheduler, kind of knows where you're leaning, even if you're not taking even if you're not taking official action tonight.
So a couple of questions, Dan, about what you laid out. That part of the plan that has to be submitted, so we have to outline.
Yeah, so right now the plan is not down to the very specific level, based on what I've seen in the portal. What has to be submitted. I don't know if Charlene has been in the portal more than I have looking at those templates, but the way it looks to me is there's more generalized buckets and things have to go in at this point.
But X amount of percentage has to go to this, and X amount of percentage has to go to that.
Okay, really the only percentage they're giving you is that 20% towards recovery learning.
Okay. And
then the rest has to meet specific criteria, but there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of good ideas people are talking about in our area. And I just wanted to give you the cost. I should have did this. So it's about $108,000 to make those 0.67s 1.0s for 1 year.
Can you say that number again?
Yeah, 108,641.
How many positions is that, Dan?
You know what, I don't have the list right in front of me.
It's 5.
Any of the ones that, so the 0.67s and the math was 0.8, to make them all 1.0s is 108,641. I had Charlene do that number to respond to a question not about rescue act, but to the merger committee. That's why I had that number right here on the tip of my tongue.
So, Enrichment being funded by this is huge, and I think that's going to be a great program for the kids, and those kids to go to Granville and all that is obviously something we have to do. I think everyone has.
That may be more than 1 year though. Could it be 2? I mean, the whole summer school program basically.
It could be.
It might be.
Yeah.
They got to catch up, right?
It may take more time than 1 year.
Think about that recovery, like the benefit that the students could get from something like that. I mean, we saw how we've already witnessed through data what could happen when the kids are in school and the lack of them being able to read from. I mean, if we could have some sort of recovery thing, especially for everything that's been happening, I think that seems like something that we have to do. I think we have that responsibility to the students to provide them with something so that they can catch up, so that they can have a little bit of extra.
So 300,000 is 20% then, roughly. Is there an estimate of what the summer enrichment, including the high school summer, an estimate on what that could cost this year?
So I don't have the final figures because I don't know how many high school students that we're going to have. The junior, senior high school, we don't have the number on it.
Right.
For certain year, you'll have enough money
Right,
in the grand scheme of things. I think you're trying to think of how many years.
Right.
I think that the impact on the recovery learning I'll say this, the sooner the better, but you gotta get some numbers, the sooner the better.
So that'll help when we meet in finance, some kind of target for that, but I see that as absolutely, this money is a blessing when it comes to being able to provide that for the kids. Getting everybody up to full one, I think that's something. We're not taking a vote or anything, but kind of consensus on doing that.
Dan, can I ask you a question about from 0.67 to 1? First of all, it's a great idea. We had labs at school, and anything done after school, the kids are distracted, they're not focused, whatever. So if you can do it during the day, it's a wonderful thing to do. I know when we first did these, we did them at school, and our issue was having time in the kids' schedule, because as the kids got older, the schedules are really packed, because I'm fearful you may be replacing something that's credit bearing. I don't know how the credit situation is. I'm not sure how flexible your schedule is. Ours was tight. We didn't have a lot of study halls for the kids to get into. So the first thing, it's a great idea. I think it's perfect, but just make sure with Joanna that it's conceivable and possible that we can pull those kids in that class without having them affect anything else as far as their credits and graduation goes.
That's what I was thinking too. I'd written down how would it work? Would they be pulling from other classes that they weren't struggling in, and then that kind of creates, a snowball effect? Or would it be study halls are kind of worked in and they're, going on their free time, essentially, for lack of a better term?
Right.
So,
do they have study halls, and you don't want them to choose between music, art, whatever else?
Right.
Those are essential for those kids to go to. So
Right.
in lieu of, I don't want to do that. I just want to look at every angle here, see if it's all conceivable, because the idea is perfect.
So in a perfect and easy world, right, it would be, a study hall wouldn't exist. There'd be recovery labs instead of study halls with smaller groups of kids, or maybe in specific periods where there are students that are hundreds and everything students, we do have a section of study hall, but we also have a section of recovery lab. So that's as far as we've gotten on the discussion, James, but for sure, and Christina, but for sure we have not had any conversation about pulling kids out of specials, pulling kids out of music or chorus or band or anything like that. We were talking about targeting study halls mainly, and making those be those students go to see a core content teacher during those study hall times to get direct support on things.
Meaning every kid has study halls then. So I know I just don't know what the schedule looks like. I know in ours, when we had it, some of the kids did not have study halls, so it would have been tough. But just as long as you're just aware of it, that's all. Just take a look. Listen, it's a great idea. There's a way it can work. Just we got to look at the logistics and make sure we can have it happen.
And the other piece of doing the 0.67, and I didn't mention this before, is that it will allow some of those sections to be split more evenly, because across our schedule, if you have a 0.67 teacher, that means they're going to teach like 3.5 classes, right? 3 classes every day and 1 every other. It's kind of how the math works out. And so if you only have 2, I'm trying to think how to do this. If you only have 1.5 sections of something, but then you can have 2, then you can balance them. So rather than having 20 in one section and 8 in the other, maybe now you can balance them so that that teacher has more time with 2 groups that are about 14. I don't know if that's the example. I think you might understand what I'm saying. And that was one of the things that Joanna brought forward during that conversation too, and trying to balance sections for all kids. The high flyers and the ones who need support, to try to do some balance. We don't have one with 20 and one with 8 or something like that, because maybe 20 are in band and 8 aren't. That's what something in our schedule is always going to drive those numbers to be uneven. And I'm not saying that'll all be cured by doing this, but it helps.
Would it be by teacher recommendation? Would it be by guidance counselor? Or would it be Mrs. Scotch's recommendation? Like the kids saying, I think I need more help? Would it be previous grades? What would be the decision factors?
Right now the conversation have been around student achievement, teacher recommendation, and counselor recommendation. So kind of triangulation of those, similar to what was used to identify the young people who got the first set of invites to the Summer Enrichment Academy. But certainly if a parent had a request, then that could be factored in as well.
I have a question. For the enrichment and for these pieces, has that gone out to all parents at this point? So that, or are we still in first phase of the ones that we're looking at?
So
We're gonna try and get every kid, right?
I think I know that, so you're talking about the elementary school.
Well,
So nothing about the high school's gone out to anybody yet.
okay, so just the elementary.
Just the elementary.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was able to include all the startup of that in the improvement grant. And hoping that when we have this conversation about the American Rescue Act funds, you guys would say, yeah, sounds great. Because if you say no, I've got enough money to pay people for all the planning they've done.
Yeah.
But then I have to shut it down.
And the follow-up would be, so the amount of money over there, you know, it would encompass basically any kids in school who wants to either get enrichment in some way because they need it, or because they want to also to be more where they need to be. We can encompass every kid, right?
Yep, so in the summertime, we're trying to triangulate on specific kids to provide recovery learning. Although, and I didn't say it, but we're also trying to do the enrichment we did after school in the elementary. Is that 2 years ago now, before COVID happened? That's something that you're gonna hear come up again when you talk about how you're gonna spend that American Rescue Act money. Can we do that enrichment through grades?
I think Joe had missed the presentation from Miss Mako. So
Yeah, Jess Smocko did a presentation on that earlier. Okay. So we can, hey Jess, can you email that to me and I can send it to the board if you're still, I can see your emoji on there.
This is also recorded too.
Yeah, can you look, all right, I can look back.
There's 56 kids
in there, that was
enrolled so
mine.
far from kids, 56 kids, a lot of teaching sports, so, and they're looking to get some more.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, if we get because I think this is great to get back to where we need after looking at some of those pieces to where we need the kids to be at. So if we can get every single one as best we can to help, that's fantastic. And just so for next year, when school starts up, are we thinking we're back at normal? This building's gonna be back to kind of the way it was pre-pandemic? Are we, class sizes, and I think that's where we're kind of at, right?
That's where we want to be. So my recommendation would be, is that if there is no mandate to provide virtual instruction, that you just say, hi folks, we're open, come back to school. I'm not sure where the governor will be on masks. I'm hoping that, everybody knows today he made an announcement that said no masks or except schools. So we're stuck with it for now. I am totally hoping, and so are all my colleagues in this area, that by September, or really by August 1st, we hear, hey schools, no masks, and you can put more than 22 kids on a 66 passenger bus. That's not hurting us as much as it's hurting my colleagues around the region. 22 kids on a 66 passenger is killing them. So my hope would be that we are normal, maybe with some spacing, maybe with some extra cleaning and things like that, but our kids are back, our class sizes are about normal, and we do not have teachers who are trying to look at a camera and teach the children, and also trying to do it in the classroom. That if the virtual goes away, unless we have some sort of emergency, excuse me, and that everybody's in the room. And a parent always has the option to choose to homeschool. But we want the virtual instruction to go away. We've done it as best we can, but we don't believe that it's been as effective for our students as being in the room. We know it hasn't been.
Well, we've seen, it was the perfect experiment to see how it affects children not being in the classroom. I mean, unfortunate as the pandemic was, it opened our eyes to the need for kids to be social and be in school, and I think there's a lot of case to be made for that. So just again, it's rough numbers, but I think we need a little bit of information going into the July meeting. So we got roughly 300 grand that we're going to be spending on summer enrichment, which is great, and not this year, but over 2 years most likely, right? We're talking about 108 to level them up, but again, we have to guard against recurring costs. This money should not be in any way, shape, or form earmarked for anything that's a recurring cost. So like Dan said, we level them up, and then we take a look at the budget for next year. If we can get them up to a 7.5 or however that works, and then earmark that much to the balance for the years, that might be a wise thing to keep teachers in the classroom, which is what we need. HVAC for library, based on the age of this school, I don't know that won't take up the whole 1.5, but.
Well, if it doesn't, obviously it's not.
Yeah, so I think if we can get, I don't know if we have time to get just a rough estimate from someone who might say, hey, that's gonna run you about, $500,000. If we can get some kind of rough estimate, we can talk about the possibility of allocating that there. I know we should upgrade, we should talk a little bit about transportation at the next meeting. Again, if you have any kind of pricing in your head that might.
New bus costs about $120,000.
120,000.
It's a round figure. New diesel bus like the ones you're running now.
Okay.
And the reason why I say purchase rather than lease is because one-time money.
How long does a typical new bus last? What's the year?
So normally state ed is looking at them, DOT, after 10 years, they're saying that's, you're stretching it with bus 20. It's still safe, it's passed all its inspections. Alarm anybody, but at some point there's going to be something about that. It's starting to get some rust on the bottom from what John Brown has told me. And at some point they get enough rust, they say that's it. They're still perfectly safe, and places like rafting companies and buy them and run them for another 20 years. But as far as passing those inspections and making sure that report card I mentioned at the beginning is where you want it to be for your school district, you really got to stay on top of them.
It's still 2 years younger than the average car. It's 12 years on the average car today.
Usually replacement schedules on buses are 10.
I mean, 20,000 for the reading program.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So that's 70,000 for you said 6 years.
6 years, yeah, to buy them for 6.
Question on that, so if we're gonna go back to what we did, what does the workshop and reading stuff we've already have work then?
So we can use it to supplement, so there's no additional cost. We bought the readers and writers workshop, we bought all the stuff. There's no reoccurring cost. I know that's been asked a few times. So we own it. And I will leave that to the people that are talking more about curriculum every day, to the elementary teachers and obviously John, and then the specialists that we talk to sometime from OCs. It doesn't mean we throw it in the trash. There's good things about those groups and those circles that work. It just, we need something right now that's prescribed. As you know, as a small school, we don't have a ton of common planning time for people. We just don't. So a prescribed program does help with that. Not having a lot of planning.
Now, is that a program that like we get that they're off the ground running, or is there a training time frame for that and they have to, then they're off? Because that's what if I remember from the reading writing workshops.
There was a lot of training.
It wasn't like go, it was down the plan.
We hadn't even completed the training when the pandemic hit.
Okay.
You are correct.
So is this one?
So John, John, can you speak to the training required for one? So I'm going to say yes, there is some training.
Okay.
So for Wonders, the plan would be that first of all, we would be able to start training right away. There's a lot of virtual training, but also there's in-person training that can happen throughout the summer. We would look at October as a date that we're going to get started that first month of the year, make sure we got everything back. we're looking through that program. All of our teachers feel really strong about it. And then October, initiating that program and going through it. But our teachers are going through training throughout that time, throughout the summer and then through September. But there is built-in training with the program. It's all part of it. It's what you pay for within the 6 years of it. So that with that one price, where trainers will come to us. There's virtual training that we can do. There is actual classes that you take to teach you how to operate and use the system. So it's all built into that program, and it's consistent training. It's not just one and done, or you got 3 sessions and you're good. Good luck to you in the next 6 years. It's continuous throughout the year, troubleshooting. And I think that type of training is extremely important as we're trying to develop our teachers to be better and better. So
John, it's a $70,000 investment. You're going to use it for 6 years. It's meant 6 years is because that's the progression of the program, and then they feel 6 years goes through enough students so that they maximize their benefit from the program. Is that basically the deal?
Yeah, over that 6 years, you're purchasing for that 6 years license to be able to access any type of virtual information. Also, any type of the yearly, paper products. All of that is purchased within that price over the 6 years. So that's all together. And then you don't have, at the end of that 6 years, you would look at it, I would hope we're still evaluating what we're doing and make sure that program is correct and we need to continue with this program, or we're able to shift in a different direction because education has changed over 6 years, because we know it changes so quickly. But I think this program is, from every school district around us that's using it, from the training and the information that we've gotten, this is definitely a good fit for us and what we're looking for. But yeah, that 6 years is definitely, that's a long time in education, and I'm sure there could be some updates over the 6 years, and that's why it runs to 6.
John, this is like a research-based program, right? Just, yeah, okay.
Yes. It hits the gold standards of all research-based. It's one of the top programs in terms of that.
Great.
And obviously, any extra information that you guys would like, we can always give you that too.
I got just one piece of information. So it's 6 years or no years. There's not like a shorter term plan that you can evaluate whether you dig it or not, or what?
There would be so there's 6 years where you're getting everything in the 6 years, right? You're going to have access virtually. You're going to have access to the paper products. You're going to have access to every material. There's also, it could be a 6-year virtual, so you have access to the program for 6 years virtually, but you're paying for every year, paying for the paper products that would then go away after that year. So you would have to buy those every year. So that's a reoccurring cost, and that cost is lower, obviously, but when you look at it over the 6 years, you're getting the best bang for your buck over the 6 years doing it that way without negotiating, which I would assume that you have to negotiate always with any of these programs. But over the 6 years, it seems as though that would be a better way to go. But it would be a little bit of a different price if you did just the 6 years virtually with buying those manipulatives, those yearly products every year. But that's a recurring cost then every year.
John, I just want to make sure. So you're talking about the consumables, like the workbooks.
Yes, consumables. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm saying the wrong words.
I know what you meant. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
So yes, you could buy fewer than 6. You could not buy all those consumables up front, but then you've got a reoccurring cost as opposed to a one-time that buys you 6. But you do want to make sure, we need to make sure it's the right program for us. So that's why you're asking.
It's a 6 year commitment. And up front, I mean, if it stinks in 2 years, you paid $70,000. I'm not saying it's going to stink. I'm just saying. Right. Anything like that much up front.
And I just to speak a little bit to, so we've had access to the program now for the last about 2 months, where we've been just playing around with it as we talked, obviously some different programs, but some of our classrooms have actually been utilizing some of that program just to see how it works with our kids. So we haven't just gone into a blind and listened to someone. We're actually using it with our kids and seeing how they're doing with it. And so far I've heard all high marks from the program in terms of how it's being used with our kids. Obviously, it's kind of the sample, but you're getting, we actually have the manipulatives sample, and we have access to the virtual environment sample, and we're able to put kids through some lessons and just kind of see where they are with it and to see how our teachers use it. So
I appreciate that. It sounds good. So give us more information on it for July. I don't know if you got any kind of concrete data or anything like that, but certainly I think some of us might want to see some benefits of it before we commit to going.
Yeah, I make a recommendation. So John, what about for July? Maybe not the reorg meeting. That's only like 3 weeks away. Or maybe that meeting works great, but for the July meeting, you have a couple people from your committee come and show the board the online function or whatever we have access to for the demo, and talk about how they would use it in a classroom to help kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. We have to have all these decisions though by the 15th of July.
No, just the money needs to be in the buckets, the actual expenditures. Yeah. I want to circle back on HVAC. So
can you, okay, go ahead. You're still staying with the same.
Staying the same thing. So, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but HVAC in the library, my thought on that is more like 2 mini splits, which are those ones that you see on the wall.
Oh, okay.
with a condenser mounted on the roof or on the ground with 2 mini splits, one on each side, or each end of the library, covering that. And maybe it takes 3 to do that square foot. That's how simple I see that, because the room next to that where there's a copy machine in there and a teacher workroom in there used to have one. So they had a mini split installed through the wall. It hasn't operated in many years. But maybe it's like 1, 2, 3 of those to take care of that whole space. And then there's that. Maybe I'm oversimplifying, but that's what was in my mind. So I had a number of like 20,000 in my head. But you'd have to likely have asbestos testing if you're going to go through the brick wall.
That's right.
We built it in the
Go through
90s.
the wall, yeah. And there's other classrooms that are stifling and
There is.
as well, right? So,
Yep.
and maybe
And maybe there's a better solution, because I know Mark mentioned AC through the univents, through existing univents, and he worked with a company that worked on energy efficiency, so he might have great ideas and more expertise in it, but that's how simple it was in my brain.
So I think coming off the conversation, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, and Ella, if you'd like to add to the conversation, I think we're all good with the summer enrichment program. I think we're all good with paying for tuition for those kids that need to go to Granville and just to get our kids up. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity to do that. I believe we're all good with leveling those I think it's 5 positions.
Yeah.
Those 5 positions up to level them up to 1. Is everybody, any concerns about that stuff? Anybody want to?
Just as long as long-term, we're accounting for those costs for the future.
Right.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
we need those teachers to be full-time here. Yeah.
That's a good point. That won't affect benefits at all, correct?
So that number, that 108,641 includes the benefits. So even a part-time teacher in the Teachers Association here gets same health insurance that a full-time does.
Right.
So that 108 that Charlene calculated included Social Security and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That was included in that number.
And
again, that's an estimated number that she provided to me like a few weeks ago.
Okay.
It was pretty close.
But it's a direct impact on kids' education, so.
No doubt.
It's gotta happen,
So even if it was a little bit higher, it's gonna be great. Yeah, if we can take a look at, here's some ideas about HVAC. That would be great.
My last piece will be just, so I have said it, to get that bus, you still have to have voter approval. So that'd be something you'd be talking about,
Later
getting on the vote, unless you're gonna have a vote in between about the building or whatever. You'd have to have voter approval, and you need to make sure that fits. Providing transportation to kids, in my mind, fits making sure they're gonna be successful in school. I just need to make sure that one fits in that American Rescue Act, because I
Oh,
haven't read
yeah,
all.
now obviously this cost associated.
Because you gotta have that vote, so I don't want people to say, he said we could just buy the bus. I didn't say it, I still gotta have the vote to do so.
Not only that, but you have to have the drivers, you have to have this and that.
Right.
So those were all recurring costs on top of that. But
You have something.
Yeah, no, so, in terms of, going, this is not a big cost at all, but it goes along with the reading program, as you heard say about the virtual. Do you have any other tech upgrades? I know we're going through the smart project of Smart Bond here also, but in terms of like district licensing things, I mean, the teacher's gone through right now the 1.5 years of trying a lot of different programs. We hope that we can get rid of the computers and go back to all the true learning that should be happening, but there are some benefits to what we did learn recently. I'm talking about just programs like I use Explore Learning, Gizmos. I mean, I looked at Nearpod versus Pear Deck. I mean, I think it's a district license for me personally. It's 360 versus 170. My district only allowed me to do one of the others. I have to purchase it. I think go with both. But these programs could also serve instructional purposes, but also remediation purposes. I think to help the kids outside of the class when they're home, because you're gonna still have their Chromebooks at home, and doing things to help them, further engage. So that's that. And then the other question was, listen, is iReady right now up through 8th grade? Because I know we spent a lot of money on iReady over the years. I know, and that is that where we are?
iReady, yeah, and it can go higher in math. That's the majority is using it up through 8th grade, but we do have some high school people using it.
We're going to continue with that.
Yeah. So let me. I can speak to your exact question, and so I have. So this is how I was trained to try to buy stuff for next year with this year's grant money. So we have already renewed for next year. And thanks again to Jess for helping me with this, helping John and I with this, because teachers come with requests, but we've been able to kind of funnel some things through different channels to just organize them. And I'm so glad that she was doing her internship and taking some of these admin classes, because it's been a help to John, both John and I. So iReady is already been renewed through BOCES. But we added back the teacher toolbox for all teachers, which is an upgrade from what we had this year. It was a downgrade from what we had 2 years ago. So we're able to do that with grant money for hardware and software. So software. We already renewed CAMI, which is one of the programs we used to write out PDFs, because our teachers were saying we got to have this next year going forward. We learned this in the pandemic. We got it from this, so that's been renewed. RAS Kids for the elementary school has been renewed, and I don't forgive me, I don't know exactly what all they put. All the requests they made, the site licenses have been purchased using this year's software. The year that's going to end, June 30th, software money spent for next year. So they're all renewed. Not to say that we could do everything. Mystery Science was renewed. Seesaw was renewed. And if I understand Seesaw correctly, that's kind of like the CAMI for the younger kids.
Yeah. Seesaw is like Google Classroom, but for younger kids.
Thank you.
Typically, we use that. I use that myself. So.
Oh, I appreciate that. I have the spreadsheet that tells me what I did. We bought a site license to teachers, paid teachers. So that was one that they've been asking for a few years. The Booster Club had bought some gift cards last year for people when they asked for them. So we bought a site license this year. And I just want to make sure I didn't miss any. But most of the requests that were made, we paid for. We did not buy Planbook EDU, because there are some Ed Law 2D concerns about that. I'm just looking at what else. We did not purchase Kahoot, although it was asked for, and I don't know exactly what Kahoot is either.
Games. It's pretty cool game.
Oh yeah, no, I have seen it in classes where it's got the scoreboard on that. So we purchased all of those ones I mentioned from the list that came from our teachers with this year's grant money. And we worked hard to get all those POs done. I want to compliment Michelle Sherwood for getting those POs out, and for Charlene for fielding my calls, trying to make sure we got that money out. And we also used our hardware money that we had left over to buy 24 Chromebooks. So I'm buying that 188 Chromebooks piece by piece with grants to try to maximize those grants. So we spent those grants down to zero, which is where we want to be. I want to spend every penny of it. So we're a little bit ahead, Todd. There's more things that people would like to have, but we're in a good spot because some of this stuff we didn't come on till October, November, December, January with some of these pieces. So this year, when they come back in September, and even for summer school, they've got access to all of this. And part of that was just a transition between admin structures, because previous elementary principal was taking care of some of these, and it was one of those things that Sam and I lost in the shuffle, and then John started, and I lost in the shuffle, and then Jess said, "Hey, can I help organize this?" And this is what we have. This nice, and you can't see it, but I'm looking at this nice list of what's been renewed and how much it costs, and when the PO was cut. And the elementary teachers all can see this. And actually, maybe all teachers can see the list because we shared it out that way.
Thank you.
So we're not restricted by so much as far as that goes. Obviously, we want to limit it to non-recurring costs, but it sounds like there's a lot of good things we can do with that money. So does anyone need any more information than we've requested already for the July 1st meeting in order to make some decisions?
And I'll ask one more thing. And what I would say is if you know tonight, I'm not pressuring you, but if you know tonight that those teachers going to 1.0 is a real thing, that would be good to know tonight, because that helps in the hiring process.
Yeah, no, I think we've all agreed to that already, right?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so we're all good with that. I mean, do you need to vote on that?
So what I think we'll do is we'll add that to the agenda at the bottom for action items under probably the other personnel.
Well, yeah, what about the summer school stuff? You want a motion on that too?
Yeah, the summer school's in there, that there's motions in there to hire those people to give summer school.
And tuition, all that stuff.
I don't necessarily need a motion on that item. We have in the past paid for summer school for middle schoolers, so it would just be making, the superintendent making the decision to pay for all. I don't believe
at the bottom of, personnel, right?
Yes, bottom person, no.
I don't need the names of the teachers, we know it's 5 positions.
We'll just say all the part-time, all the .67s and the .8, all to 1.0 with American
All
Rescue.
6, 7,
funds.
and 8.
Just need to make sure that we have a plan to pay for these folks.
Go for it, and keep saying that every time.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't wanna have to.
For 1 year,
People
Tom,
again.
how about with that, for 1 year?
Let's not end up back in the same situation we were in.
Are you writing it down?
I am.
For the staff's sake too. You guys are not here.
Wow, it's just gonna be better for everybody. Yeah.
So it's 1 point F3, right?
Yeah.
APO.
We're fortunate. Or you can even put the school year in there, for the 21-22 school year, using grant funds.
All right.
So is there anything else from anybody that's out there on the board that's remote or in the room that you have on your list of things that we should be considering for the use of this rescue funds? And by the way, my wife made very nice snacks there, so if you gotta run, there's.
I'll just take one on my
Let's
way
get
out.
something first.
Thank you.
Good night, Edith.
Good night.
I wanna play, thank you.
So if there's nothing else, that kind of leaves it open for John and Mark to have a conversation with Charlene, because Charlene also participates with a lot of business officials. There's a lot of good ideas being exchanged. But that's kind of what was on my list.
Yeah, if we can, like to see that finance committee meeting, any ideas you guys have, that would be worthwhile to give us some guidance to. So, awesome.
Are we getting ideas too from, like, I'm assuming great from teachers and staff and everything for other bodies?
Yeah, well, we could put something out. John, can you put an email out, John, to the teachers and staff? Just ask if they have any ideas for recovery learning. Thank you.
Cool. All right, moving on to consent agenda. I need a motion for consent agenda A, B, and C.
I'll make the motion.
Todd,
Second.
Joe, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. So, Toby, I have Anita out at 8:34, so she's not voting now, so that gives us 7, correct?
Yes.
So we're at 7 voting. So 7-0.
7-0.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Need a motion to accept the results of the May 18th, 2021 school budget vote. An election, Proposition 1, school budget passed, 273 yes to 140 no. Thank you to everyone who voted. Board election, 1 5-year seat commencing July 1 goes to Amanda Durkee with 249 votes, and 1 5-year seat commencing on July 1 goes to John Guglielmo with 218 votes. Congratulations, folks. We look forward to seeing you in July if you're out there. And thank you, Ms. Tracty Saltzman, for running. We appreciate you, the time you dedicated to running for board. So I need a motion to accept those items. Ella.
Second.
Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Let's see. Need a motion for action items B and C.
Motion.
Christina and Joe. Any discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm gonna join some of these together if I can, just 'cause we're at 14 pages tonight. I do need a motion to approve the 2021-2022 Code of Conduct as presented in the June board packets. Chris, Joe, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good. I need a motion for action items G related to the EBLAR funding. Chris?
Motion, second.
You got it, Christina?
I was starting to say motion and I heard Chris.
It's okay, it all works. That's good. All right, Chris and Christina, any discussion? All in favor? Good. I need a motion for action item H, referring to funding the employee benefits accrued liability reserve. Chris? Joe? Any discussion?
This one's a H right now? Which one, yeah?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, the one
Yes.
was, yeah.
Any discussion?
H is not funding the Avalar Reserve, it's using the Avalar Reserve for vacation payout for Dan Ward.
Yep, okay, yep. So that is what that is for, using the MLR for that purpose. I had two motions.
Chris and Joe, yeah.
Yep.
Still good.
Two motions are good. Any discussion? All in favor?
I'll abstain.
Yes, okay, Todd will abstain, so it's 6.
601. So would you get that, Todd abstains, 601?
All right.
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Kevin.
I think I can go.
You can.
Okay. I need a motion for action items I, J, and K.
I'll make the motion.
Todd?
Second.
Joe? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, we're good.
It's all now. Let's get it down. 50 pages left.
Probably can go all the way,
You
right?
can do that over the page if you want.
Can I get a motion for action items L through P, please? Joe? So John raised his hand, but he can't make a motion. Chris? Joe and Chris? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was good.
You can do all those together if you'd like.
Okay, yes, can I have, need a motion for action items Q through T? Should have worn my glasses. Q through T, need a motion. Ella and Joe?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Just for a little information, Fort Ann lost today to Germantown 2-1. So Fort Everett lost in the championship. Germantown won today.
Oh, really?
Squeeze that in there, you saw the word.
Fort Ann was there, yes.
So I will share one thing for the board. I know Fort Ann is looking at the possibility of hiring somebody by January. So you just want to be aware of that. And in that contract, I think it's 60 days. I think it's 60 days to get out. So sometime this fall, you may hear from Fort Ann that they've hired their own person. So that has a financial impact for the district. Certainly, you won't be able to bill Fort Ann for that $40,000. That was part of our budget planning process. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew. And they're voting on that contract tonight as well. I do know they posted the position to possibly fill it full time.
All right.
See that one separate.
Need a motion to approve an athletic merger with South Glens Falls Central School District for the 2021-2022 school year in the following sport: girls varsity basketball. I need a motion. Joe? Chris? Any discussion?
Strictly based first.
Yeah. Dan, can you give us the evolution of this? Because this is new to me. I don't know anything that's going on here.
Got it. So the athletic committee at their last meeting spoke about basketball. It was brought to their attention that we weren't going to have enough student athletes to run a varsity program next year. So there was direction given to look for a merger partner. Between Lorinda and I don't know if she's on the call tonight, we reached out to we reached out to 5 schools to ask about the possibility of our few girls that would be varsity ready next year to participate with them. In the end, we only had 1 school that said yes to us. Prior to even talking about a merger, I did have Lorinda reach out to the parents of the student athletes that would likely be varsity players next year. The number is small, to see if they would be interested in playing someplace else or just have a JV team here. The answer that she received from those parents is we'd like our child to have a chance to participate in a varsity team. Because we could run just JV here because we don't have any seniors that typically play basketball that were on the team this year. But the parents of the juniors, so they'd like, of the one who'll be a junior next year, would like them to have an opportunity to play varsity basketball, so this is where we're at. We reached out to both small and large schools. And again, we only had 1 who said they would be willing to take our students. I will reserve speaking to the specific names because when you're trying to talk about athletic mergers, everybody's name comes out. People don't want to talk to you anymore. But I will show you, and I had conversations between Lorinda and I with 5 schools.
All right, so in your opinion, after discussion with the parents and the kids, this is the best option that we have.
So I didn't talk to the parent or the kid. I left that to Lorinda.
Okay. I mean, just contact was made. I'm not pointing to you. Sorry about that.
And so this is the only option for us to have a varsity team with a merger next year. So it doesn't mean that once a merger occurs that our students have to go. This is for varsity only. We're still looking to have a JV and a modified here. But if we don't do this merger at this time, for a student athlete from Fort Edward to be on a girls varsity basketball team next year, unless somehow we end up with enough athletes to field one ourselves.
So I would assume, Dan, if any of these players went over there and they decided that it wasn't for them, they weren't going to make the team, if for some reason there were cuts and stuff as falls, they'd have the opportunity to play JV here.
Yep, so varsity and JV, those kids can move up and down as needed. It's when a student athlete, you know this, they move from modified to JV, they can't go back in a season. So it's all about an opportunity really for likely 2 to 3 young ladies next year. That's what this is about, with the hopes that the year after or 2 years after we have our own varsity team here again.
I'd like to say, thank South Glens Falls for giving us the opportunity. Any further discussion?
Nope, thanks.
Favor? Aye. Any noes or abstaining? Is that all in favor?
7-0. Sorry, buddy.
All right. Okay, this is the motion I was looking for. Motion to approve the reserve fund plan as updated and included in the June board packets. Need a motion?
I'll make that.
And Joe? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All good. Okay, I'm not reading this one. So I need a motion to execute the transfer of funds to 5 reserve funds as listed in action item W. Need a motion.
I'll make that.
Second.
Todd, any discussion? All in favor? All good?
Nope, just thank Charlene for some good work on that.
Absolutely.
And COVID.
Todd. We're good. This one might have some discussion. Motion to approve the transfer of funds from the general fund to the cafeteria fund in amount exceed $2,000 to cover negative account balances.
Motion.
Yeah.
Joe.
Joe, I'm sorry. Joe. Anything? So this is for student accounts? Or?
Well, if it's any account that's got a negative balance, will be zeroed out, which, and Charlene can speak to it. She has experience in other school districts, and as the group around the table that's been here with me for the 5 years knows, and many of the people who've been here 2 or 3 years knows, we had some negative balances that predate my arrival here, that we have tried to recapture from the individuals. At this point, it's time to clean this up. It's time to clean this up and move forward with life. Is the way that I would say it. And this is, Charlie, are you there? Can you talk to the fact that, or what my understanding from you is that school districts usually clean these up on an annual basis?
Different school districts do different things. There is a requirement that the general fund take over any negative balances from the cafeteria fund. You know, many school districts are kind of reluctant to do that because they feel it will cause more negative balances, but it is the law. It doesn't mean that you can't continue to, the general fund can't continue to try to collect those debts owed to the school district. So basically, I think what your motion here is that you are asking the Board of Education to basically forgive those debts. We are removing those debts from the cafeteria fund, and we're also removing them from the general fund. We are erasing those debts. Is that what you're asking the board to do? I didn't write this resolution, so I'm not sure.
We tried to collect on these now. We've sent mailings and tried to collect it each year. This is one of the items that comes up in our food and nutrition audit. I know we spent some time last week, Charlie, you and I and Sue Frank from the Cap Region BOCES going through and looking at reports. I can tell you that some of the names on the reports are folks that have not been attached to this school district for, I don't know what some of the names even are. I know some of the names on there. And we did recapture quite a bit of the money, and the real amount, I believe it's much less than that, but I wanted it so that you could make one motion, we can clean this up for sure, and it's moving forward, because we're not incurring any negative balances now because everybody is free.
It's free.
So we've been doing that. This is our 4th year of everybody free. So all these balances are from over 4 years ago.
And there's no revenue at all being realized from the cafeteria, correct?
You have profit and loss.
Is there any way of paying this, not that it matters, it all comes from the same pool, I guess, but is there any way of paying this with the profit, any revenue that came from the cafeteria? Does that make any sense?
So so that's a good question for Shelley, and I don't know the answer. So when the cafeteria, if a cafeteria makes a profit, I would assume that profit at some point goes into the general fund, Shelley, at the end of the year, or does it not?
No, it does not. But the law is that the general fund is supposed to make the cafeteria fund whole for these. Actually, it's supposed to take over these negative balances into the general fund at the end of each year. Again, a lot of cafeteria funds just continue to try to collect them. Sometimes if it's a family and there's a balance, they'll push the balance down to the younger students, or, you know, if there's a negative balance, they'll carry that down to the younger students. I mean, each year in the software, they purge, you know, the seniors, and they bring in the pre-K or the K, and so they update the software. There's always these accounts that are in the negative, and technically the general fund is supposed to take ownership of those and try to collect them. The ones that Dan is talking about, I guess, I wasn't involved previously. A former business manager was, and I guess they sent out letters and tried to collect these. Like Dan said, these are many years old. So if basically they're what an accountant would call bad debt. So they're bad debt, and they're not collectible. And what I would like the resolution to say, to give me permission to write off this bad debt.
Yeah, so we transfer it, basically bring them to zero, which technically, yeah, I got you.
Related to the negative balances in these old cafeteria accounts.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be cool to cafeteria pay for it. That's fine. It's all coming with the same thing. So.
Well, but think about it, the cafeteria makes $2,000. You can't move it into this fund, but it's still.
Either way, it's still the same problem.
So Charlene was asking for and I know you have a motion in a second, but she's asking for, this following to be added at the end. So if we put a comma after balances.
Yep.
And say, and to write off the bad debt related thereto.
Because I don't think you really want me to transfer money from the general fund to the cafeteria fund. I don't think that's what you want me to do. And I mean, there is money in the current budget for a transfer to the cafeteria fund, but I don't really think that's what you want me to do, because it's really the negative balances are transferred to the general fund. They're in the general fund as debt, debt owed to the district, and you want me to write it off. And I'm not even sure about the accounting transactions, whether they were actually brought into the general fund. I'll have to look to see if there's a liability or an asset out there for cafeteria invoices. If there isn't an asset out there, and then I will write it off. But again, permission to write it off if it exists, yes. Actually, in the cafeteria fund, there's a software where they track the student accounts, and they track, apparently some of these are adult accounts. Typically, adults are not normally are allowed to charge, but I guess there are some adult accounts. So if they're out there in NutriKids in the software, those will be wiped out. So they will disappear. They won't be there anymore, and so they won't be a receivable on the cafeteria side. It'll affect the revenue on the cafeteria side, but essentially we're just writing off this bad debt.
We're going to add that to the end. I think just one really quick question. There's no portion of this money that's due to our provider. I mean, since no, there's no portion. Okay.
We hold all of that.
Okay. Good. All right. So we're adding to the end of that, and to write off the bad debt
Related there.
There too. That's two motions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Two motions recorded.
And we're clear, this is just cafeterias, not other individual debts that are owed to us.
No, this is just cafeteria fund bad debt. Yeah.
That's kind of an inside joke.
Right. But I wish it wouldn't say transfer funds from the general fund to the cafeteria fund, because I really don't want you to tell me to do that, because I don't think that's what you want me to do.
All right, so motion to approve.
Motion to approve writing off the bad debt associated with the negative balances in the cafeteria fund, correct?
Up to not to exceed $2,000. Yes, that's what I would like.
So Toby, do you have that? Do you have that now?
Yes, I got it.
Just so it shows up properly.
Yep.
And those accounts were there 5 years ago. Some of them we all have talked about several times.
It's good accounting. Okay, so we have two motions on the table. You guys heard the amended motion. All in favor? Good. Everybody good? 7-0. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Motion to appoint Ryan Herman as Public Information Specialist at a rate of $4,000. Need a motion?
I was gonna say, he's done a great job.
Yes, a great job. Chris and Joe?
Who'd you get, Chris and Joe?
Chris and Joe. Yes, he's done a fantastic job, Mr. Herman.
And that is the same rate as last year.
Same
That's
rate
no
as last year.
increase.
Thank you, Mr. Herman, for doing a fantastic job, taking up that job, and you've done a fantastic job if you're out there. With that said, all in favor?
Aye. 7-0.
Oh, good, 7-0. Oh, this is a big one.
I think Michelle was on.
Michelle Taylor was on, yeah. Motion to accept the donation from the Fort Edward Booster Club in the amount of $16,048 and to amend, if necessary, 2020-2021 school budget to reflect the donation and expenditure of donated funds. The Booster Club is making the donation to support the offering of extracurricular activities for Fort Edward.
Motion.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be first on that
I
one.
got Chris and Chris here. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for Michelle and the Booster Club and the community members that are supporting it and everybody involved.
For the community effort.
Amanda Rabine for doing a lot of the collection of the donations and going out knocking on doors.
Anybody who was involved. So we had our virtual sports awards tonight. I know the live stream didn't work perfectly. We apologize for what happens today. But to see those kids be recognized and to hear the coaches talk about the experiences. Now, obviously, Christina, you were there, but you guys know how I live my life. One thought away from tears, and it certainly makes my eyes water to see the kids be recognized in there today, knowing what we were talking about 1 year ago in this room.
Yeah. Wow.
So thanks to the Booster Club, thanks to the community of Fort Edward, and thanks to everybody else who helped, Irving Tissue, and our surrounding communities, anybody who helped. It was fantastic for our kids.
Awesome. That said, all in favor? Well, good. All right, moving to personnel. Motion A, be resolved, Fort Edward Board of Education hereby votes to appoint Mr. Mark Besson to the position of District Administrator, effective June 16, 2021 through June 30, 2021, at a rate of $575 per diem, and thereafter votes to appoint Mr. Mark Besson to the position of Interim Superintendent of Schools, effective July 1, 2021, at the rate of $575 per diem, authorizes the board president to execute the employment agreement, approves the payment thereunder, and authorizes Mr. James Dexter, District Superintendent of Schools, to file a Section 211 waiver application subject to approval of the Commissioner of Education. I need a motion.
So moved.
James and Ella, I saw Ella. Okay. James and Ella. Any discussion?
Welcome aboard.
Yes, welcome aboard, Mark. Still out there.
Yeah, there he is. He popped back up. There he is.
There
In the
you go.
middle.
Is the
Well,
one-
but he's not in yet. We didn't have the vote.
Welcome aboard.
You jumped the gun, Mark.
Please, all in favor?
Aye.
You're official now, Mark.
7-0, very good.
Again, welcome aboard. We look forward to a great year.
Now welcome, Mark.
The resolved Board of Education of Fort Edward School District hereby reappoints Jeff Durkee from the seniority recall list pursuant to Education Law 3013 and to a 1.0 FTE grade 6 teaching position in the elementary tenure area effective September 1, 2021. Mr. Durkee will be reinstated with the seniority which he had accrued prior to being assessed. Chris. Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
You have two abstain?
You can abstain.
I'm also abstaining.
You got votes on that?
5-0-2, you're good.
Yeah, good enough for vote.
Everybody else said yes, we're good.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Durkee.
Welcome back, Mr.
Welcome
Durkee.
back, Mr. Durkee. Be resolved, Board of Education, Fort Edward School District hereby reappoints Mary Monahan from the seniority recall list pursuant to Education Law 3013 to a 1.0 FTE kindergarten teaching position in the elementary tenure area. Effective September 1, 2021, Ms. Monahan will be reinstated with the seniority which she had accrued prior to being assessed.
Motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I missed those. What was those? Who made the motion?
This motion.
Joe and Christina.
Joe and Christina.
7-0.
Okay.
Adult Board of Education for the school district hereby reappoints Caroline Marvin to the seniority recall list pursuant to Education Law 3013 to 1 at the grade 4 teaching position in the elementary tenure area effective September 1, 2021. Ms. Marvin will be reinstated with the seniority which she had accrued prior to being accessed. Motion. Joe, Ella. Discussion? All in favor? All right. Be resolved, Board of Education of the Fort Edward School District hereby reappoints Ashley Delisle from the seniority recall list pursuant to Education Law 3013 to a 1.0 FTE pre-K reading position in the elementary tenure area. Effective September 1, 2021, Ms. Delisle will be reinstated with the seniority which she had accrued prior to being accessed. Chris? Joe? Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to provide a little clarity. So right now, we only have signups enough for one pre-K section. We're looking at an AM pre-K section with Mrs. Delisle being able to do AIS and reading intervention and support for the other part of her day. We had that position included in our budget, and I would recommend that you keep it there as 1.0. If we get 10 more pre-K signups, then certainly we'll have to have 2 sections of pre-K, and her ability to provide that reading support and AIS support will go away at that time.
All right, welcome back.
Get your vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're good. Be resolved, Board of Education of Fort Edward School District hereby reappoints Amanda Beeman from the seniority recall list pursuant to Education Law 3013 to a .67 FTE English teaching position in the English tenure area effective September 1, 2021. Ms. Beeman will be reinstated with the seniority which she had accrued prior to being accessed. So we can go forward with this.
We're going to do this, and then we'll do that later.
Okay, so this
It makes
is
it
one of those.
cleaner.
Makes it clean, you're right. Need a motion. Chris? Todd?
Dan, it's Amber.
What did I, oh, I got it. Sorry, that's me.
I thought it was.
Sorry, my fault.
Amber Beeman, yes. We have motions on the table, right? Any discussion? On favor?
Who made the motion?
Chris and Todd.
Chris and Todd. Do I need to speak? Toby, I'm sorry.
It keeps cutting out for some reason.
Yeah. It does here too.
On page 11, it could be me. Be resolved, the Board of Education of Fort Edward School District hereby reappoints Mary Denton from the seniority recall list pursuant to Education Law 3013 to a 1.0 FTE aide position effective September 1, 2021. Ms. Denton will be reinstated with the seniority which she had accrued prior to being accessed. Need a motion. Joe. Chris. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good? Okay. Motion to appoint Ms. Jessica Smacco as Summer School and Enrichment Academy Coordinator for the summer of 2021 at a rate of $65 per hour. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
We had James and Ella.
James and Ellie, she had a hand up. Any discussion? All in favor? Just a little slow on the buzzer for that one, Christina. We got to get to you next. All right. Motion to approve Lisa Tyler as a summer school and enrichment academy teacher for the summer of 2021. Ms. Tyler's hourly rate shall be calculated using step 20 of the FETA agreement. Need a motion? Joe, I'm sorry, Joe. And Chris. Joe and Chris. Any discussion?
So the reason why Mrs. Tyler's name is not in the other list, it's because she's not currently a Fort Edward employee. So I had to set her outside of that so we can designate a step for her, because salaries for summer work are calculated based off of the step schedule in the teacher's contract. Mrs. Tyler is not becoming a full-time employee here. She has a full-time job over at Argyle, but we did need an additional person for the summer school position. So we reached out to people across school districts to try to fill it.
Thank you.
And she'll do a great job. She'll do a great job.
I'm sure
No
she
doubt.
will, yes. All in favor? I think we have an abstention.
Yes.
I also am abstaining.
502.
502. All right. Welcome aboard, Ms. Tyler. Motion to appoint Ms. Kendra Capone as Summer School Enrichment Academy nurse at a rate of $40 per hour for the summer of 21.
Motion.
Christina, there you go. You got the buzzer. I saw Joe in the corner back too. All right, Christina and Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Okay. All right. Moving along. Motion to appoint Miss Cindy Ketchen as substitute summer school and enrichment academy nurse at a rate of $40 per hour for the summer of 2021, pending the completion and review of all necessary employment paperwork and background checks. Need a motion? Joe, Ella. Joe and Ella. Any discussion?
Yep, so currently, Ms. Ketchen is a school nurse up at Hudson Falls. And the reason why I have that disclaimer at the end of hers is because I don't have all the paperwork yet. Nurses are hard to come by in the summer. So I wanted to make sure we got her on the agenda this evening. Certainly, if everything doesn't check out, this would be void.
Gotcha. With that said, all in favor? Aye. All good?
The last piece is I know Miss Capone is definitely going to miss at least 1 week for vacation. So we've got to have somebody. And this is great that we do have somebody.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Great. Motion to appoint the following individuals as summer school and enrichment academy counselors or psychologists for the summer of 2021. Hourly rate should be calculated using the appropriate step in the FETA agreement. One member of this counseling team shall be on duty each day of the summer sessions to provide student support and/or direct instruction. Deb LeBaron, Joanna Scotch, and Jocelyn Nolan. Need a motion. Chris, Ella. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. I could have gone individually then, but I think if anyone wants to table these things, let me know. Okay, we're good on that. Motion to appoint the following individuals as summer school and enrichment academy teachers for the summer of 2021. Hourly rate should be calculated using the appropriate step in the FETA agreement. Jessica Smacco, Stephanie Bruce, Shannon Smith, Marianne Stark, Jody Brewer, Chris Bump, Jeff Durkee, Shauna Brown, Nelson Chase, Angelique Peck, Amber Beeman, John Boucher, Amanda Lewis, and Lisa Corlew. I need a motion.
Lucas. Amanda, yeah.
What's that?
They're just, yeah, I got it.
We're good.
Todd and just a second.
Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, Chris got it.
All right, Chris. Any discussion?
I just say thanks. Certainly, they're going to be paid for their service, but it's been a very difficult year for everybody in the world, and I would say especially educators. And thanks to them for saying, hey, we'll work some this summer to help our kids out as well.
Yeah, it's a great showing. Echo Dan Simmons, exactly. With that said, all in favor? Aye. We're all good? Motion to appoint the following individuals as summer speech providers for the summer of 2021. Hourly rate should be calculated using the appropriate step in the FETA agreement. The tied individual shall be calculated using his or her last active step on the FETA contract. Marianne Roberts, is it Marianne? Marianne Roberts, and Keith Majeka.
Motion.
Second.
James.
I motioned too, but I think I got cut off.
I said Christina. It's you
Oh,
and
you
Dan.
did? Then I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah, James.
I'm waiting for you.
I see your finger before you actually say anything, so I got you. There you go.
Use that hand button there, right?
Raise your hand.
Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Cool.
Okay,
Look at that.
I know, wow.
Wow. Motion to appoint the following individuals as summer school and Enrichment Academy aides and assistants for the summer of 2021. Hourly rates will be calculated using the appropriate amount in the FESS agreement. Maggie, Susan Oshie, thank you. Lori DeSerti, Jessica Shields, and Olivia Fisher. Need a motion? Christina and Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm gonna abstain just from I, is that okay? Is that fine?
You can abstain from the whole thing if you want.
Abstain from the whole thing.
Fine, yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
6-0-1.
Yep, that's easier.
So Todd's abstaining, Toby.
Okay.
I got it.
Alright. Motion to empower the superintendent to employ substitute teachers, substitute support staff, and other substitutes as needed for the summer school and academy for the summer of 2021. Need a motion? Chris and Todd. Any discussion?
Yeah, so just clarification, we have subs built into some of those lists that you already approved. I didn't want there to be an issue if in the summer we need somebody right away, and it won't be me. So I'm trying to do my best to set the next person up. If all of a sudden they need to hire another math teacher because something occurs. Certainly they'll bring it back to you at your next meeting, but we want to give them the opportunity to hire as long as the background checks work and the fingerprints come clear and they support the person. They can get them in the classroom, working with the kids, keep the academy and the summer school moving forward.
That being said, all in favor? All good. So again, thank you to everyone who's stepping up to help our kids out this summer. We appreciate it. Motion to approve the agreement between the district and Donald Elliott. Need a motion? Joe? Chris? Any discussion? All in favor?
7-0.
Motion to accept the letter of resignation from Donald Elliott from the position of cleaner effective May 30, 2021. Need a motion? Joe? And Ella? Any discussion?
I would just say thanks to Don for his service to the school district and elsewhere in our community. He's been a great guy to get to know during my time here at Fort Edward.
How long is Don serving?
I don't have his number of years committed to my memory, but he's been living in Fort Edward, to my knowledge, his whole life. His children went to school here.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Don. Favor? Good. All right. I need a motion. Okay, jump. Jump.
S.
So yeah, this is gonna be T. All right, so S, I need a motion to accept a letter of resignation from Andrew Koff from the position of music teacher effective May 19th, 2021. Need a motion? Christina and Chris, any discussion? I will say thank you, Mr. Koff, for time here. He was a really great band teacher, energized the kids, put on some really great band concerts, some off-the-cuff things that the kids had a lot of fun with. Took them on a trip to Six Flags, got them involved in a music concert out there. So, I definitely appreciate time at the fort. With that said, anyone else have any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And then we had item T, motion to elevate all 0.67 and 0.8 to 1.0 FTE for 1 year using APR funds for the 2021-2022 school year. Is that correct?
ARP.
ARP. ARP.
Dan, are you using any of the CRRSA funds for that as well? Or should we just say federal funds, or is it just the ARP funds?
Hey, federal funds.
Okay.
Federal.
Using federal funds, it gives us a better way to be flexible with things.
Okay, federal funds for the 2021-2022 school year. Need a motion? Todd? Christina? Any discussion? All in favor? We're good, okay. Just have one thing to say before we move on to our second public comment period. This is likely not only Todd's last meeting, but it's Dan's last meeting. And I want to say that I was here for the day we selected you, and you have just trust us more and more every day, Dan. I appreciate your commitment to the district. There were times we were in this board meeting, we had to beat the alarm out of the building at 11:30 when you first got here, and you managed to help us kind of herd it in and make things more productive. You sacrificed your time with your family. You created scholarships for kids that probably weren't going to get a scholarship on that stage, and you made sure that every kid got their name called for a scholarship, and that is just so altruistic and amazing for anyone to do for kids. So you've just been tremendous to this district. It's been a pleasure working with you, and we wish you so much goodness when you move up to Hudson Falls. We're lucky to have you, good luck, man.
I appreciate it. Is there a hat that he did not wear? All right, I mean, realistically, down here bringing his own equipment down to the ball field.
Oh gosh, I mean,
working as a custodian.
What is track you down one time?
Never wore a cowboy hat. I just want to say thank you to the board members around the table now, and anybody who's out there, and to the board members that have been here with me. Thanks for the opportunity, for taking a chance on me as a new person, as a superintendent. I have learned a ton, and there's one thing, and I said this every time, there's one thing I haven't had to worry about as a superintendent, and that's having a board that I felt comfortable working with, and I felt comfortable listening to all of your ideas, and that I felt listened to my ideas. And so I wish you, and forever nothing but the best. I'm still a resource. I still love this place. I will love this place for what it's provided for me and what I've been able to provide to it. And again, I wish you nothing but the best. I'm going to have a new position that's got a lot for me to do there, but I'm a resource to you, and certainly to Mark over the next 10 days while we're trying to make the transition. But just want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun. And I've said to John a few times, I said, John, the difference, he came from Schenectady. In a small school like this, you can do whatever you want on a given day. I don't mean that like you don't have to work, but I mean, someday you might say, you know what, the best thing for me to do today is work on a baseball field. The next day, the best thing to do might be to be in the kindergarten classroom all day. The next day, it might be working next to a custodian. The next day, it might be on a school bus. And so I appreciate all those opportunities. It's been hard work, but it's been great to have this group to do it with. And that's what, it was funny because I asked a long time ago, somebody who was involved in the search process, I said, what do you think about this board? Well, and they had good things to say. And they said, this board wants to work with somebody. They don't want to say, here it is, go ahead and do it. They want to be a part of the process. And I found that to be true in the 5 years I've been here. So kudos to you for being involved, board members who want to participate in this work, because I couldn't have done it without you guys the last 5 years. I guarantee you that. So good luck. Thank you. And we're not going to make it out of here by 8 o'clock tonight, so I get out of here without having to buy for everybody. After that short meeting we were always hoping for.
All right. Never really made it. All right, cool. All right, so at this point, it's the second public comment. Toby, do you have anybody that had expressed interest in speaking at this?
No, I have nothing.
open the chat back up, and there's nothing in there.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
I had one thing for executive session.
Yes. So I need a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters referring to negotiations with a specific entity as well as to the employment of a specific individual. Need a motion?
I'm gonna add one thing, and a specific student.
And a student, specific student. Okay. Need a motion?
Motion.
Joe? Chris? Board of Education members and other individuals invited into executive session are reminded that all matters discussed during executive session must be kept in the strictest confidence. All in favor? Okay. See you on the other side, folks. Thank you for everyone for attending this evening. We appreciate it. And hopefully see you all at graduation.
And we'll come back to the live link to adjourn. You guys don't need John or Charlene or Toby. I know I don't.
No.
Have a great night.
You're
John,
free to fly,
Charlene,
folks.
Toby.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Anyway, I'll stop this recording and then I'll turn off the mics.
Adjourned. Joe? Ella? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Appreciate the
You guys,
good
good
work.
night.
See you soon. Hopefully graduation.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Good night.